I'm happy to have you here, Jenny. I'm
Hi,
Jenny,
great to be here.
and I want to tell my viewers that Jenny is a psychiatrist with an experience of 20 years. And on
Mhm.
top of that, she has a team of 50 psychiatrists, therapists under her. So today we're going to dive into the topic of psychology and some techniques that she uses on her patients to help them overcoming mental challenges. So warm welcome
Sure.
once again, Jenny.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And if I tell you honestly, Jenny, like recently, I see around that a lot of cases, for the people who are, trying to seek help have increased exponentially. So, what's the reason behind that?
I think there's lots of reasons actually. I think in one big part is actually that a lot more people are more willing to reach out and speak out for help because in the time that I've been a therapist, I think I've seen awareness and stigma about talking about mental health drop considerably. And I think, there's a lot of celebrities now that will talk about accessing emotional help, which 20 years ago, people just didn't talk this openly. So I think there's that part that we're a lot more aware, and I think people have always had emotional health problems. I think where there's human beings, there's always going to be, and there always has been emotional health problems. I also do feel though that in our society, we are at a pace of change with this technological era that we found ourselves in, where life around us is changing so quick, so fast, and we just can't really keep up with it. Like even just in my lifetime, the childhood that I had is just totally a different world to the world that the children are growing up in now. And I don't think although every generation has always said, all back in my day when it was different, I think now more than ever, it is just a different world, and we can't really keep pace with those changes and the changing needs of young people in society today.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more with you, Jenny. And do you think that in terms of society and in terms of technology, I feel like, do you believe that social media plays a crucial role in rises of depression cases among people?
Yeah, hugely. I think again, there's several reasons I see for that. Of course, we talk about like the Instagram life, and we all just put out, don't we? We're posting out there the filtered, perfected image because, of course, nobody wants to put out there their worst days. We want people to see the best side of us, and that's natural. But what that creates is we all sit there in our own homes looking at our screens seeing, oh, look what they're doing, look what they're doing, what they're doing. But this is a polished version of life. This is not real life. So we've kind of got that reason, but also I think a, a big part of the struggles with mental health is we've become so isolated in our own little worlds. Again, just a generation ago when we were growing up, the family in the home would be you'd come in from work, you'd come in from school, and you would bond as a family, or you'd go out and play with friends. Now, even in a home, it's so common that everybody's there on their devices in the same room, not talking, and each person's in a completely different world. And of course, just like out in the real world, we can get into interpersonal difficulties to have to navigate. Well, we can get into those difficulties online too. Our online relationships affect us emotionally, but we're there on our own. We don't necessarily have our peers or our family there supporting us with those dynamics. So it's very isolating and can become, there are some very dark areas of online that, we're all aware that it's not all cat videos. There's some really difficult stuff. And I think, again, my concern is very much for young people navigating these spaces.
And if I tell you honestly, Jenny, what I personally feel is the world ain't getting better. Like we are constantly, bombarded with a lot of negativities all the time, be it news, newspapers, be it from our relatives, any sort of things. Mostly it's negativity, be it like inflation, recession, world crisis, world wars. So during that time, what sort of advice would you like to give to people to
Yeah.
maintain their
So
composure?
again, I think you're right, and I think we have to remember that that negative news, it sells. People are drawn to what's going wrong, what's going on, and like, you talk about clickbait, the way that the news is marketed, and we have to remember that news is marketed to us, and we're drawn in to observe things. And the second you're looking at something, those algorithms in the background are going to notice how long you've spent on there, and it's going to give you more and more and more of this content. And that we end up in these is echo chambers that people call it. The more you see of something, the more that's reflected back, and you end up down this sort of stream that's hard to come back from. I guess my advice would be about really mindful social media use. And by that, what I mean is just having moments every now and again where we pull back and we think, like, not just be caught in what I'm looking at, but notice what I'm looking at. What do I really think about this? Am I happy with the content that I'm being shown? Me personally, like, I have Instagram, and that's I've kind of kept those as my two social media channels. I try not to have too many. And my Instagram is my personal use. I keep my followers really small, and I just follow friends and family. And in terms of what actually I'm showing, my feed literally is cat videos and my friends. So it's about like being really mindful about and choiceful about what you want to be shown. Because once we open those gates, then, as I say, you can be really pulled downstream quite quickly. Again, though, my biggest worry is for the young people who are exposed to this without that mindful awareness, and that for everything that you see, there'll be a counter argument somewhere else online as well.
Definitely. And Jenny, for the sake of mental awareness, mental well-being, if you had like being a psychiatrist from the from like if you had to address the entire world for for a minute or so, what sort of advice would you like to give for the sake
I
of
think
mental well-being?
Okay, so I'm really informed by dialectical behavioral therapy, which is full of skills, lots and lots of skills. And one of the most core skills, it's all based on mindfulness, and one of the core skills is our wise mind. And that's about a belief that within us all, we have our deep wisdom. And we all disconnect from it from time to time, and we get caught up in our either our overly rational mind who wants to problem solve everything logically, or we get pulled into our emotional mind, which is quite reactive. But the overlap of both of those, our reasoning and our emotional truth, the overlap of those is our wisdom. And I think it's about, again, that mindful awareness that within you, you have the deep knowledge of what you need to do. You know what's good for you, you know what's not. And it's hard to hear that inner wisdom because it's quite quiet and it's like a deep whisper inside of you, whereas our emotions are loud and chatty. But if we just block out the noise and listen deeply within, follow that voice inside of you, the one that really knows what's right and healthy for you.
Well, I guess somewhere, are you referring to intuition, the inner voice inside us? Intuition?
Intuition, yeah.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah, intuition is part of it. We get an intuitive sense about something, but our wise mind is more than intuition. It's a deep awareness of the logic and the emotion overlapping together and working together so that because sometimes like we might intuitively know that something's not good for us, but we might have to engage with something for a while, because of a circumstance or context that we're in. And our wise mind, our wisdom would find a way that recognizes that intuition that something isn't right for us and what we might need to do given the context of the situation that we're in.
makes sense. Uh, this is a personal question that has been bothering me for a long time. I'm not sure, Jenny. First, I would like to know, have you watched that a video of like Tom Cruise where he talked about psychiatry and psychologist?
I might not have watched it. I'm not great at knowing films, but tell
Okay,
me anyway.
Yeah, like it was years ago. That was an infamous video of him where he talked about that, there's no such thing as chemical imbalance. There's no such thing as like that. It's
Mhm.
all like it's a
Yeah.
pseudoscience. He literally called it as pseudoscience. So what do you believe about that?
Hard to know. Like, so in DBT, we sign up to something called a biosocial theory, which is a belief that we are all born with a biological disposition. Okay, so our bodies are simply different. So, and to me, that makes sense. Like, some people are tall, some people are short. Some people are going to simply feel their feelings stronger than other people because we call them feelings because you feel them. They live in the body, and the body's different, right? So, some people will feel them stronger. Also, I do believe that our lived experiences massively inform our emotional worlds. And in DBT, we look particularly for any experience of invalidation, which is basically having been told that your emotional response to the world is wrong. Because when we get told that our emotional response to the world is wrong, the emotion's there saying, I'm right. And we get told that it's wrong, which kind of pushes it down. And that actually makes it bigger. Okay. So our emotions get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I believe there's a biological component, right? I absolutely believe that bodies are different, right? And we know that hormones absolutely change like how we can feel. If anybody has had a hormonal imbalance in their life, they will know that they just are like, I'm not myself. So for me, there has to be a biological and chemistry component to a chemical change in the body. And I believe it's about our lived experiences and what sense and meaning making we're making of that. And it's again weaving these things together. I don't think it's as simple as it's this or it's that. I think it's this and it's that. And it's very, very nuanced and complex.
Sense. And what's the role of, like we discussed prior to this podcast, affirmations? The role of affirmations. Do you feel that that thing can be good for the people?
I would say it depends. It would
Okay.
depends on whether the affirmation is validating or invalidating. Okay, so for example, I do believe that if we are affirming to ourselves every day something positive and we can get behind it and we can believe it, then I think we can strengthen like a muscle, we can strengthen our belief in something. Yet if there's no belief in the first place,
Mm,
then that affirmation actually becomes a bit toxic positivity. That kind of like if you deeply, deeply believe that you are ugly and then you're told to like just say you're beautiful, if you don't believe it, that's going to feel invalidating and it will actually reinforce your original position. So I think affirmations are important, but I think we have to start sometimes very gently with an affirmation that we can believe. Yeah. So sometimes people have like a belief like, I'm not enough,
mm,
right? And if I told them to just, affirm, I am enough, if they really believe they're not, that's not going to work. But maybe we could change the language. I'm learning to trust that I am enough. Now, that might be an affirmation they can get behind.
wow.
So I believe that we have to have some belief, even if it's just small. We have to have a spark in the affirmation that we can believe. And then the affirmation, like, can really allow that spark to catch fire. Whereas
Mm.
if there's no spark, it's not going to do anything.
Wow. And for the viewers who are watching this video, Jenny, I saw a lot of testimonials given by your patients, and one of the testimonial was of a woman, I guess. She had the fear of flights. She was like scared of flights, and then she took, I guess, your sessions, and after a few sessions, she had an amazing flight experience. So can you share
Yeah.
a bit about?
Yeah, so that was using a technique called EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's really, really good for working with any trauma. And underneath most phobias is a trauma. Okay, so what we would do is we would identify the traumatic memory And some people say I can't remember a traumatic memory, but we can kind of work with the individual to find select moments in time. But we identify a moment in time, a difficult moment in time. And then what we do is we induce what's called bilateral stimulation. So we use eye movements, one side to the other. This can be done with tapping if somebody perhaps, doesn't want to use eye movement, or it can be done with auditory. But my understanding is that eye movement is the most effective. And so whilst thinking and holding this memory in mind, and we have some clever questions just to really kind of get it held in mind in the right way, we then ask the individual to follow a lot. Well, I use a light bar, so the light moves across the screen like that, and they're following that. We can do it with our fingers. So I'd sit to the side, and we do it like this, and the individual just
Oh,
follows the movement with their eyes. So half of their attention is kind of on this, and half of their attention is just sort of noticing what thoughts, what emotions, what sensations come up around the material. And the brain is left to kind of freely associate. And what tends to happen during the process of EMDR is they start at their starting point, which is, for example, with flying, this is terrifying, their heart's racing, they're sweating, and we go through the memories where they remember it, but they reprocess it. So they start to remember it differently. Like perhaps they were a child when they had a flight and that was really scary. And they've never really reviewed this memory. They've just remembered flying is scary. Now they go back through the memory and the brain goes, oh, yeah, well, I was only 5 and it makes sense that nobody explained to me what was going to happen. So when the aeroplane moved in the air, I thought we were going to crash. And now their brain's reprocessing it, saying, oh, of course I thought that, but I don't think that now. And that allows the memory to kind of get processed and restored back in the past. That's something that happened. And now I feel differently. And then just like that, the phobia disappears.
wow.
It's incredible. I really enjoy doing the MDR work, particularly with phobias. I've really enjoyed that.
Hmm. And Jenny, as you deal with a lot of patients, at the end of the day, do you ever feel like, it's way too much? Like, do you ever feel like burnout or something? If yes, and what sort of techniques
Yeah.
do you do?
A lot of people ask me about this. Like, people always say, how are you a therapist? How do you hold this stuff for other
Mhm.
people? And do you know, I genuinely love what I do. I'm more in love with my career now, 20 years into it, than I was at the beginning, and I've always been excited and passionate about it. I find people interesting. I believe very much in providing a space to listen to people, so I feel very honored to do the work that I do. Like, it is hard. But I think the way that I see what I'm doing, rather than just listening to trauma and taking it on, and it's not my personal responsibility to fix people, it's my responsibility to be there for people and to help them think about things differently. So, with that in mind, I don't kind of feel too burdened with it. I also, as I've gone on, like we all have to have supervision as therapists, but I always thought like the more you did, the less you would need. But for me, I've actually found the reverse to be true. So I have a lot more supervision now than I ever did. Because as I've specialized in different areas, I find that I need a supervisor for this part of my work and I need a supervisor for that part of my work. And having somebody else who understands that area of work and can be interested and curious and excited with me enables me to remain in a place where I really enjoy my work and I'm honored to do it rather than exhausted and burnt out from it.
Wow, that's, yeah. And in your spare time, what kind of things do you like to do to wind down,
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got 2 children, so I don't know have an awful lot of spare time with work and 2 children, but I love reading. So I learned to love reading. I'm a dyslexic, so as a child I grew up, I really hated reading, and it was only as an adult I found the love for reading when I kind of finally broke the art of reading. I kind of really enjoy it now. I also really love the gym. I go like
Oh,
about 3 times a week.
nice.
And that's when I was younger, again, I wasn't really into fitness, but I found now like I need that for my mental health. Like it's
Mm,
my space where there's no emails coming in, no one's saying mummy, nobody needs me when I'm on a cross trainer. It's just me and that piece of machinery. And yeah, I need that. I need that for myself. And I really like the feeling of feeling strong. So I think it makes me feel like when my body feels centered and my body feels right and things, I feel mentally stronger.
intriguing. And what's your take on caffeine, Jenny? Like,
What's my what, sorry?
what's your take on caffeine? Through
On
like,
caffeine.
yeah.
I'm decaf only. I am.
Mm,
So I'm really big on saying that therapists are not perfect humans. We don't have
yeah.
perfect mental health. So the time that I struggled most in my life, I went through a period of insomnia, really bad chronic insomnia. And that was following COVID, which was a very stressful time for me because I had a business to run and I had young kids and I felt like I was working every hour with no support system. So that led me into experiencing chronic insomnia. So obviously from that, I caffeine has never come back into my life since then. Because if I drink one cup of coffee, my heart's like, "Ugh," so I'm very sensitive to it. But I actually use CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And that really, really helped me. Just a few sessions of that, and I was a lot better. And I wished I'd accessed it earlier. But because I was a therapist, I was like, I should be able to sort this out myself, which is a real kind of pitfall of most therapists. We kind of for every other therapist, we say it's fine that they've got difficulties, but for ourselves, it's like we should be able to sort it out ourselves. And I wish I hadn't been the therapist and I'd reached out for help sooner because I needed the help and it did help me.
Wow.
But yeah, caffeine has been gone from my life since then.
And I do appreciate your honesty. Like you could have easily avoided this question, but like you shared with me the genuine parts of your life. Like you said it that really touched my heart. That therapists are not perfect; they are also human beings. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're just providing a space for people to reflect on their experience of being a human being.
Mm,
But that's what we're doing all the way through. We've not got all of the answers. We've got some knowledge and we've got some experience. But my favorite quote, and I don't know who said it, I just heard it on the radio once, but it's always stayed with me, is we live our lives forward, but we understand them backwards. And
wow.
I just think that's so true. And that's as true for
Yes.
me as it is for any of my clients.
Intriguing. Yeah. And when it comes to coming back to gym, because I'm also that kind of person who is really into fitness, like yoga, gym, cycling. Uh,
Lovely.
yeah. So I want to know what are some of your favorite exercise?
Swimming's my most favorite. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
swimming. And I just feel like the sensation of being in water and movement, I feel like, because I've got a very fast brain, it's like, "Blah," in there. And when I'm swimming, I just feel like it slows right down. The sound of the water, the sensation, the coolness, all of that sensory stimuli that I get from being in water just and what I find also is like if I go running, I'm usually out of breath quite quickly. Yet with swimming, because it relaxes me so much, I can actually swim for a very long time without getting exhausted because my brain just slows right down. I relax into it and I feel very at one with what I'm doing. Whereas when I'm running, my head's going, how long have you been running for? Oh my God, you've got ages to go and you can't do it. And I just that's not there when I swim.
Intriguing. And I guess exercise, when we do exercise, that's the thing where endorphins, the best kind of hormones releases, right? Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful feeling. And yet, when you're not into exercise, it's really hard when everybody tells you you really should exercise. It feels great. You'll get endorphins because I never used to exercise. I can remember how horrible it is when you first start and it doesn't feel good. And I had to learn to fall in love with exercise. And I actually initially just, and I still don't use the word exercise that much. I try to avoid that word. And instead, I replaced it with the word joyful movement, just trying to enjoy moving. So, initially it would be like going for a walk, or trying to just like dance a bit more, go for a night out and have a dance and realize like you moved and make it joyful because if you enjoy it, you'll stick at it. And then if you stick at it, you might add something else in and start to enjoy that, and then add something else and start to enjoy that. So initially, I started walking because I had young children and I just needed to, like, right, mummy time, just go out and have a walk. Then I started to add in like just a little bit of jogging. And whereas if I'd started with jogging, I would have hated it. But because I started with walking and then I added something, I quite enjoyed it. And then eventually I added something else and I added something else. And now I really enjoy like exercise classes and I go to the gym. I never thought I'd go to the gym. Like I go to the gym and I lift weights. And whereas like years ago, if you put me in a gym and lifted weights, I would have done one session and said, I hate it. It's not for me. So I think it's about finding something you enjoy. Don't judge yourself against other people. Just joyful movement and then just see if you enjoy something else and then you will stick to it. But if you don't enjoy it, you won't stick to it.
Makes sense. And that reminds me of a question, Jenny. Like, I'm not sure whether you know this or not. Like, recently there has been a trend of taking ice baths, and a lot of people feel good after taking it. It makes them calm. The reason I'm asking is because I have been taking it for a long time. So I want to know what's your insight on it? Is it really helps with the like? Does it help with body?
Well, it's interesting you say that. So in DBT, we actually encourage something called ice diving,
Okay.
which is when we are in heightened emotional distress. If we have like just a bowl of very cold water, icy water, and we, put our head
Mm,
in it for 30
yeah.
seconds, just for 30 seconds, hold your breath, face down, face needs to be down then what that's going to do is it will shock the body into thinking that we are swimming underwater in cold water. Now, when we're in very heightened emotional distress, that our heart is racing, the blood's pumping everywhere, and we're full of energy. And that's why we go to the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
But if we were actually in cold water, then our nervous system is going to conserve our energy. It's going to, not, we're going to kind of just slow the heart rate down because we're holding our breath. And we don't want to lose all of that energy because the body doesn't know how long we're going to be under that water for. So it's going to slow the heart rate, it's going to cool the system down and calm it down. Okay. So it's actually a technique that we give to people who really struggle with emotional distress and panic.
Intriguing. So most of the time I take it on regular basis. Is it okay to do that?
Yeah, well, I see my knowledge is around DBT and the tip skill we call it. So tips the temperature in terms of my knowledge around, the beneficial impact of regular ice baths. It's outside of my knowledge base, to be honest with you.
It's all right. Yeah.
But I
Appreciate
would say if you're brave enough to do it, go for it. I mean, it sounds fun.
it definitely is. Yeah. And uh, as you are into fitness nowadays, Jenny, one hypothetical question for you. Uh, would you rather be more flexible or muscular?
Ooh, let me think about that. I, d- I feel torn because it's like 50-50 because I love the feeling of feeling strong. And I think as a woman who grew up in an era where it was never about women being strong, it was about women being very petite and small and skinny, the feeling now as a woman of having strength feels so empowering. And yet also as I'm in my 40s, having flexibility feels really important too. So I feel literally 50-50 on both of those. And there's nothing quite like a nice stretch, is there? That feeling of stretching your body
Yeah,
and having that flexibility to move. I think that's a
definitely.
beautiful feeling.
Yeah, if you ever need help with that, the stretching, I guess being a yoga trainer, I would love to help you with that. I'm into,
Yeah, lovely.
yeah, I can do splits and all sort of things. I guess I can.
Wow. Yeah, I think most of us don't not really aware of what our bodies are capable of.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And Jenny, on that note, I guess I won't hold you any longer. I know that you have a lot of work to do, a lot of things in your plate.
Always.
I can't thank you enough for being a part of this podcast. Having said that, I can thank you for this free therapy session. So,
You're really welcome. It's a real pleasure, Janelle, and I hope your viewers have enjoyed it too.
and we're gonna catch up soon with again for part two of it probably. So,
For
thank you
sure.
once again. Take care.